Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special Saturday edition of Mystery Unsolved. As you know, I recently changed the time from Wednesdays at 4 to Fridays at 7, but I was a bit busy yesterday watching the NFL draft, so I couldn't make time to do my usual video. But nevertheless, here we are on a Saturday, so hopefully this will help me get more people. Maybe, maybe not. Most likely not. I am starting just a tad bit early because I wanted to just share some quick news with you. For those of you that obviously know, some of you don't. So here it is. I have completed my latest novel, The Wax Menagerie, and I have a cover done for it, and it is absolutely breathtaking, majestic, if you will. I have also completed my collection of short stories book, The Short Story Emporium. That doesn't have a cover yet. But nevertheless, I have finished two books, and I am quite I am quite proud of that feat and accomplishment. So yeah, right now I'm just having both books beta read, and I'll have them edited, and hopefully, since we are now in the month of May, I will probably at the end of the month, hopefully, have one of them, at least the Wax Menagerie, published. Not sure about the Short Story Emporium, but again, just wanted to share that little bit of news with you all. And as we get to 7 o'clock, um, so yeah, tonight is a special edition, not because it's Saturday, but because we have reached the last episode of this season of Mystery Unsolved. And, well, I wouldn't say that's even a reason it's a special edition. It's a special edition because tonight's topic is the Zodiac Killer. And no, I'm not referring to Ted Cruz. So let's get all the Ted Cruz jokes out of the way, shall we? So, yes, this is on the Zodiac Killer. So get your popcorn ready, and let's do this thing. All right. You know the dealio. I am by no means a professional. I say it every time. But I am sort of getting a little more professional savvy, huh? Typing up the old notes on the computer because I can. I am going to be referring to these notes. I'm looking as much into the camera as I can. So if my eyes look straight ahead, or if they look straight ahead, it's because I want to look at myself. If they're looking right, it's because I'm reading the notes. Although I could put the notes here. In fact, why don't I do that? All right, the Zodiac Killer. Who was he and what did he do? Well, again, I'm gonna skip the whole he lived like if you would live under a rock if you don't. Let's just skip that. All right. Most of the people walking this earth have heard of the Zodiac Killer. So who the hell was he and what did he do? Well, he was a serial killer who orchestrated a series of murders in Northern California in the 1960s and 70s. This much we know. He killed 5 people, possibly 20 to 28, and he himself claimed to have killed 37. Now, when I was reading up on this, I was kind of baffled. I was like, wait, there's got to be more than 5. Like, that seems like a very low number. No, apparently it was just 5. Um, a couple people, 2 men survived. So 2 out of 7 survived, I guess, is the saying there. Um, he sent taunting in he sent taunting letters and ciphers. Ciphers means code to police and press, telling them they wouldn't catch him. So one of the things that I think intrigued people the most about Zodiac from the 60s and 70s and even now are his very strong and taunting letters. Is again the lightest way to put it. He would write these elaborate letters, just provoking and just flat out taunting the press and police, being like, "I am the Zodiac. You will not catch me." And he had these ciphers, which were these codes, and he had these symbols. And apparently, out of all of them, only one wasn't decoded, wasn't cracked until recently. It was actually cracked a couple months ago, believe it or not. But again, they were just these like hidden messages that he would put in these ciphers to try to figure out who he was or why he, I don't know, why he did anything that he did. He targeted young couples and oh yeah, he's right. He targeted young couples and two men survived. So out of the five people that he killed, I think they were couples, and two of the men that were, man and woman, two of the men survived. He killed people in Benicia. I think I'm saying that right. Benicia, Vallejo, Napa County, and San Francisco. I just wanted to why is that important? I just kind of figured, well, I could tell you the California coast all around, but I wanted to give you a little more extra info on that. These are the specific cities that he actually targeted in. Um, Mostly Vallejo and San Francisco. I know the movie Zodiac, I know they mentioned Vallejo a lot, so I think Vallejo was one of his bigger places that he targeted. So that's who he was, a little bit of who the Zodiac killer was and what he did. Now the murders. Now, if you go online and you search up, the killers, the killers, the people who were murdered, I can't even talk. It gives you their full names. And by full names, I mean first, middle, and last. I wanted to save space on my paper, so I skipped their middle names. Also, I don't really feel that they're relevant. Their names are relevant by all means, but I just felt like their middle names aren't really important. So you will you will see. All right. He shot and killed David Faraday and Betty Jensen on December 20th, 1968. This was his first killing. These were the two who I believe I I skimmed. I'm not gonna lie. I believe he actually saw them because they were on a lover's lane, if you will, uh, and they were in their car, or they were in David's car or Betty's car. I imagine it was David's car. Um, and he went right up to the window and boom, shot David in the head and shot Betty right afterwards. So they were unfortunately the Zodiac's first victims. Next, he shot Michael Mageau and Darlene Ferrin on July 4th, 1969. Ferrin died, but Mageau survived. So apparently not a happy 4th of July in 1969 with the Zodiac just fresh out wherever he was, and boom, strikes again. Let's see. He stabbed Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard on I have on twice. That's weird. He stabbed Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard on September 27th, 1969. So like boom. 2 months later, strikes again. Hartnell survived 8 stab wounds, but Shepard died. So imagine that. Like again, the second guy who survived, he was stabbed 8 times and he actually survived. So if there was anybody that they were going to question about the Zodiac, it was this guy, and he probably provided them every bit of information as he could. I just realized I'm kind of like really close to the camera. I apologize. I'm actually on my tablet, believe it or not. First time I'm doing it on my tablet. And my phone is on silent, so you're not going to hear my phone go whoop, 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 whoop like it does in every single video. That annoyed me so much. All right, sorry, back. The last person to die by the Zodiac was shot and killed Paul Stein on October 20th, 1969. So apparently he didn't have a preference, man or woman, shot him, stabbed him. He didn't have a preference of whether it was man or woman. He also didn't have a preference on how he wanted to kill them. He either shot them or stabbed them. Kind of weird because most serial killers, in fact, most killers in general, they either shoot you or they stab you. It's not both. So this is kind of like baffling and it's kind of interesting at the same time because you just don't hear about that. I'll even throw in strangling, Boston Strangler type of thing. But again, shooting, stabbing, strangling, like whatever. The Zodiac did both. Why is this? I'm not really sure, but it's interesting to say the least. The locations. So I only wrote down three locations because to me, they seemed the most. They came up the most. They were the most prominent. Lovers Lanes, but I think, in all honesty, that was only the first one. By lakes, there was at least two lakes that he went to. There might have been a Lovers Lane on one of the lakes, and also parking lots. There was also at least one or two parking lots. So Lovers Lanes, lakes, and parking lots. Again, not really relevant, not really important. It's relevant, but not really important. But again, I just wanted to emphasize like where he struck, where he killed these people. Unfortunately, the letters. Ah, the letters. The Zodiac would send letters into police and press, taunting and challenging them to stop him and try to figure out who he was. I don't know if that's actually what he was doing. It, to him, it was all a fun game. We don't know why he did what he did in the first place. So to make things even more maddening, he sent them taunting letters and ciphers like, hey, I'm doing these killings and you don't know why. And now I'm going to send you encrypted codes and letters. And guess what? You're also going to have no idea why I'm doing that either. All the ciphers were translated except one. I said that in the beginning, but it was actually supposedly translated, I think, a couple months ago, if I remember correctly. Police and the public became obsessed with trying to solve the coded letters. This is true. If you watch the movie Zodiac with Jake Gyllenhaal and Robert Downey Jr., who I will also be mentioning later on, Jake Gyllenhaal's character looks like he becomes absolutely obsessed with not only trying to track down and figure out who the Zodiac is, but just trying to decode this cipher in these letters that the Zodiac, publicizes. And again, the public also became obsessed with it too because they'd actually put the codes and ciphers in the paper. That's why they were actually, believe it or not, that's why they were actually cracked because they brought in a code cracker. I believe he solved most of them. Again, I could get the information, but I'm a lazy bastard. What do you want? um, but public knowledge, common knowledge, I believe they did get a code cracker who did, but also I think there was a couple people in the public who actually submitted it and said, here, this is what the code actually means. And people just wanted to solve it because they just wanted some ounce of why, like any ounce of why he did what he did. Several authors have speculated that four people who died around the time of the Zodiac were in fact killed by him, but nothing proved that. So at least two authors, from what I read, had speculated over the years that four people died around the same time that the Zodiac killer was striking, and that they were in fact killed by him. But there's nothing to support this. This is just a rumor. Well, I mean, I suppose to get a little bit into that, how were they killed? They were shot. I believe most of them were shot. I think I read one of them was off, like they were stranded off on the highway and somebody came up to them and just shot them dead. Obviously, if it has the MO of the Zodiac killer, then why don't you just chalk it up to it was the Zodiac killer? Why are we not doing that? You know, years later, I'm sure you could just pin that on him. Oh, I just noticed that my notes actually cut off right towards the end. I can still read it, but kind of just noticed it. All right. Paul Avery was a journalist known for reporting on the Zodiac. He was actually the one that was portrayed by Robert Downey Jr. in the film Zodiac. Ah, that's what it cut off. I also have another person. I also put the person that Jake Gyllenhaal had played, who I believe was Robert uh Grays Graymore. Robert Graysmore. That's who Jake Gyllenhaal played in the movie. He was a journalist, a cartoonist too, oddly enough, and he actually just happened to he happened to get this case, and he worked with Paul Avery. So those those were the main two guys that were like trying to crack down on the case to try to figure out who the Zodiac was, what's his motive, why is he doing the things that he's doing. We're at the 15-minute threshold, and I'm almost done. So I guess at the very least, I will go over the meat of the story here, of the topic at hand, and then I'll just go over it like I always do. So no worries. Special edition means I go over it's longer than most. Okay. And I just realized it cut off my notes. Well, that sucks. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. Lucky I did this on my tablet. I'm going to look it up on my phone because this is valuable information. So if you just pardon me for a moment, I can't believe I just noticed. I'm so bad. I just realized it cut. I have a horrible printer. I'm so thankful that I got my computer back, but the printer has been literally staring me in the face for a year, and I haven't used it. So now that I use the printer again, the printer's like, "Hey, I'm just here to remind you that I'm not a very good printer, and I don't like you." Clearly, it does not. Okay, let's just type in the Zodiac killer. Okay. Again, I apologize. This as if my notes, as if reading from my notes isn't unprofessional enough. They're cut off at the end. Oh, so ridiculous. I have a second page, but those are like the after people. Those are like I haven't but there's a main suspect and he's not on this page, so that's why I'm kind of like, really, Justin? All right. The main suspect excuse me, the character that the guy that Jake Gyllenhaal portrayed in the film was Robert Graysmith. Sorry about getting his name wrong there. Okay. Arthur Lee Allen. So, Arthur Lee Allen is what many people believe, who many people believe was the Zodiac killer, not Ted Cruz. Arthur Lee Allen, and there's so much on him. Like, I just went to the first page when I looked up the Zodiac, and there's like paragraph after paragraph on Arthur Lee Allen because this man was just suspected. Like, he was a potential suspect based on circumstantial evidence. Allen had been interviewed by police in the early days of the Zodiac investigations and was the subject of several search warrants over a 20-year period. Well, so think of that. In the beginning, when when you suspect somebody of being a potential serial killer, you're going to bring people in, you're going to question them. This guy was questioned throughout a 20-year period. Do you know what that says to me? That says to me he was the Zodiac killer. It was him. Why are we looking anywhere else? For the love of God, it was him. In 2007, Graysmith noted that several police detectives described Allen as the most likely suspect. Well, I mean, if you bring him in a dozen times over a 20-year period, like, why? Like, my God. In 2010, Tochi stated that all evidence against Allen ultimately turned out to be negative. So, the crazy part about all of this is that they brought this guy in originally based off of some really strong evidence. And apparently it didn't hold up, so they had to let him go. I'm sure you've watched enough Criminal Minds, CSI, Law and Order to know that, like, if you don't have enough evidence on the person, you gotta let them walk, unfortunately. But they kept bringing this guy in. So, like, I'm not sure, like, what was he thinking? Like, "Oh, crap, they're onto me." But, like, he never broke down over a 20-year period. He never said, "Yeah, it was me. I was a Zodiac." That never happened. That's the thing that I'm kinda wrapping my head around. Like, it's one thing for them to bring you in a couple times in the '60s and '70s after this is all over, but, like, over the course of 20 years, like, it's the late '80s, it's the early '90s, and you're still being questioned. Like, wouldn't you just break down after a while? Unless it wasn't him, but that just seems so stupid to me. They had the evidence, but, like, what exact amount of evidence did they have here? It's just so crazy. So, yeah, so Arthur Lee Allen was just he was public enemy suspect number 1, okay? Like, to me, he was Zodiac. And again, I could read all of this, but you get the idea here. Just to give you a couple of ideas as to why he was the prime suspect, handwriting was similar. It wasn't his wasn't particularly they weren't it wasn't set in stone that it was his handwriting, but it was similar. Also, he had a criminal past. He had shady alibis, like everything you could possibly want to connect someone to a murder. This guy had, but yet at the same time they had nothing. So, like, try to wrap your head around that. They had everything, but at the same time they didn't have anything. So, just absolutely nuts. Um, so yeah, the guy, I'm not gonna read you his rap sheet. It's not appropriate at all. But he has a rap sheet too, so that's why he was connected to, because they were like, "Wow, this guy's got a criminal record." It's very similar, but at the same time, some of the stuff it's just not. Again, it's not appropriate. But but yeah, like I can see why they would connect him to being the Zodiac killer. I totally agree with this. They had him take DNA, but of course, I can imagine back in the day, DNA in the '70s was probably sketchy at best. But again, basically, excuse me, Arthur Lee Allen was, for all intents and purposes, likely the Zodiac killer. So there is one little bit of here that I also wanted to read. That was very interesting when I came across it. If I can find it. Okay, so Mark Ruffalo, actor Mark Ruffalo, he actually was in the movie as well, Zodiac. And he was actually quoted as saying in 2007, if you get into who these cops were, you realize how they have to take their hunches, their personal beliefs out of it. David Tachi said to me, as soon as the guy walked in the door, Arthur Lee Allen, I knew it was him. He was sure he had him, but he never had a solid piece of evidence, so he had to keep investigating every other lead. So I that pretty much sums up everything I just said about Arthur Lee Allen. They had the minute the guy walked into the door, he was just kind of like, "Dear God, that's him." Like he probably had the feeling, and 7 other cops had the same feeling as he had. They had evidence, but at the same time, they didn't have anything. Like, that's just crazy. Like, to have evidence, but at the same time not have anything. But you know what? That's the way that cops operated back then, because they had to do things by the book. But at the same time, you have to remember the '70s was such a different time. DNA wasn't where it was. Um, fingerprint, blueprint analysis, it just wasn't the same thing. So it's crazy that like you can't they couldn't absolutely 100% certify that it was him. So I'm going to read a couple of other suspects. There's at least 8. But just know that your money should be on Arthur Lee Allen, who was portrayed by John Carroll Lynch in the movie Zodiac. He's actually known for playing serial killers. He actually also played Twisty the Clown in the Freak Show season of American Horror Story. Just an overall creepy actor. And he also played the Zodiac. Well, he played Arthur Lee Allen, so technically he did play the Zodiac. Haha, see what I did there? All right. So the other suspects, unfortunately, I'm going to keep looking down at my phone here because until I get to the other ones. So the other person of interest was Ross Sullivan. There was a link between him being the Zodiac killer because of, let's see, he was a library assistant at a college, and he was suspected by his coworkers because he missed several days of work, and he looked like the sketches of the Zodiac killer, because remember they came out with sketches too. Uh, and also, Sullivan was hospitalized several times for bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. So he's a quiet librarian. His coworkers are clearly afraid of him. And he's bipolar, he has schizophrenia, and he kind of looks like Zodiac sketch. Okay. Second person, I can see that. I could buy into that if Arthur Lee Allen's evidence wasn't ridiculously large. There's also a guy named Lawrence Kane, and I would say he's the third, not because, again, not because I'm reading him third, but from what I'm about to tell you. Um, let's see. Kane was diagnosed with impulsive control disorder after suffering brain injuries in a 1962 accident. He was arrested for voyeurism and prowling. So, voyeurism and prowling is kind of what Zodiac used to do before he would confront victims and kill them. Also, there's an impulsive control disorder. So, a lot of these people, if you're noticing the pattern, there's something wrong with them. They have disturbances in their head. They don't know, usually the case there. So, this guy, also a possible suspect. But again, nothing compared to Arthur Lee Allen. The police informants accused Richard Marshall of being the Zodiac killer, claiming that he privately hinted at being a murderer. Well, that's always fun. He lived in Riverside and San Francisco around the time of the murders. And he was close to the Bates and Stein murders. Bates was another person that was killed by Zodiac that I didn't put down for some strange reason. Dropping the ball, Justin. Dropping the ball. Let's see. In other words, a lot of people and like several authors and several people that were on the case, they said that he wasn't a good enough suspect because there wasn't enough information on him, and it just wasn't. It didn't really. There wasn't a lot on it. I'm backing up here. I'm like scrouched up in my so bad. Oh, this video is so bad. All right. So now we're getting. All right. So just go off of this. Number one suspect, Arthur Lee Allen. That's number one. Number two, Ross Sullivan. Number three is Lawrence Kane. Those are your three best suspects. Richard Marshall, people they pretty much said through the years he wasn't good enough. But now I'm about to read you some that are utterly ridiculous. I will point out the ones that are ridiculous. But the one I'm about to read is ridiculous, but at the same time, it kind of holds a little bit of weight, as crazy as it might be. Ted Kaczynski. Does that name sound familiar? It should. That would be the Unabomber. Yeah, the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski. He was thought to be a potential suspect of also being the Zodiac killer. First of all, if Ted Kaczynski was also the Zodiac killer, dear God, like, That's mind-blowing right there. Ted Kaczynski, also known as the Unabomber, was investigated for possible connections of the Zodiac killings in 1996. Kaczynski worked in Northern California at the time of the Zodiac murders, and like the Zodiac, had an interest in cryptography and threatened the press into his public communications. He was actually ruled out by both the FBI and the SFPD based on fingerprint and handwriting comparisons, and by his absence from California on certain dates of known Zodiac activity. Okay. So, sorry I'm scratching my nose. This video is so ridiculous. Ah, sorry. So, I actually, of course, I watched a documentary because that's what I do. God damn it. And I heard about this. I remember I was looking down at my phone, and they're like, Ted Kaczynski is also thought to be the Zodiac killer. I looked up slowly to my television, and I was like, what? Are you kidding me? But apparently, he's ruled out, which is kind of a relief because a man that causes that much madness, that would be like, you missed him the first time. Ah, God, sorry. Hopefully, you don't miss him the second time, but it wasn't him. So that's crazy suspect number one. Crazy suspect number two, Bruce Davis, but I don't have to look down at my phone anymore because I have my second notes. Hey, hey. But I guess I can give you a little more bread and butter if I want to look down. All right. Bruce Davis was a member of Charles Manson's family. Eyebrows raised, everybody. He was a part of the Manson family cult and a convicted murderer. He was investigated, but no evidence linked him to the Zodiac murders was but no evidence linking him to the Zodiac murders was discovered. So basically, oh, it's all this last part's good. All male members of the Manson family had been investigated and eliminated as Zodiac suspects. So I love that the Charles Manson family was like the Manson family was obviously around the same time, and they're like, no, we ruled out all those guys. But it's funny that you knew you had to rule out all the men, like you investigated them all because the first time that any murders happened, that's probably the first amount of people that was the first people they suspected. Let's see, what else do we got? Uh, this is kind of weird. I don't actually have these names that are listed. There's two other guys here. I don't even have them listed. But I guess because yeah, that's probably why, because they were ruled out. All right. So I'm gonna stop looking at my phone because that's so unprofessional. All right. So we just talked about Bruce Davis. Another possible suspect was Richard Gaikowski. He was a newspaper editor. And the reason they suspected him was because he was a newspaper editor. Um, again, he had very shady traits, and I guess people looked into him. Like his coworkers kind of said, "Hey, you should probably look into this guy, Richard Gaikowski." And I think they looked at his handwriting, and again, similar, but not too similar to the Zodiac letters and cipher codes. And then I saved the best one for last because this one's just. If you thought Ted Kaczynski was mind blowing, wait to hear this one. George Hodel. Okay, George Hodel was suspected of being the Zodiac killer. His son Steve was a former police detective, and he claimed that his father killed the Black Dahlia and was also the Zodiac killer. I'm pretty sure the Black Dahlia happened when, like, I did a video on this and I've already forgotten when it happened. It happened in like the 20s or 30s or 40s. So, like, I suppose it could be true, but again, like, he claims so, remember, they don't know who killed the Black Dahlia. So, Steve Hodel is like, he's saying that not only did his father kill the Black Dahlia, but he was also the Zodiac killer. Like, I don't know what Steve's hoping for here, but Those are really strong accusations. Those are wild accusations. Is there any truth to them? I don't know. I highly doubt it. Because if so, then George Hodel, like Ted Kaczynski, would just be one of the most dangerous men in the entire world. But of course, there wasn't enough evidence, and this was pretty much just thrown away because it's crazy. Like, not only is it's one thing to claim to be the Zodiac killer, but another entirely to say, oh, he was the guy that killed the Black Dahlia and he was the Zodiac. That's just too much. There's also 6 other men thought to be the killer as well. But you know what? I didn't write them down because look at the list. As you can see, the list is long enough. I don't need to give any other guys glorification or satisfaction by mentioning their name. But you get the idea. Take our notes and just whoop. All right. Arthur Lee Allen was pretty much the main suspect. And obviously, you know why. So, let us go over the notes once more. All right, we know who he was in sense of being a killer. Killed 5 people. This one, I think it was more. I absolutely think he killed more than 5 people. Do I think it's between 20 and 28? I'm going to go a little lower than 20. I'll say about maybe 12, so a dozen. Him claiming 37, that's every serial killer. H.H. Holmes once claimed to kill like 50 people. The letters, I'll never understand people's fascination with the letters. I personally suck at math, so if that looked anything like math, I was probably just not. Yeah. I've seen them. It looks like math to me, or even like Sudoku, so I don't know what people's fascination with that would be. He targeted young couples. So this one I never understood. And I mean, did did a woman break his like why we never knew why he did this. But here's a theory. Did a woman just break his heart to the point where he was like, I'll never love again? And the young people of today won't either. And he just went out and started murdering young couples. I don't know. I know that probably is the first time anybody's thought of that, but I want to know why. 2 men survived. So here's another thing that baffles me. 2 men survived. So how many times have you ever heard of a serial killer attempting to kill somebody, and not only do they survive, but you don't even realize that they survive. And if you heard they survived, you didn't try to go back and find them, track them down, and finish your work. Apparently, Zodiac was just like, I missed 2. Eh, like, I'm glad they survived, but like, my point is, like, there's survivors here. Then again, there's a couple of other people that I know that, a couple of other murderers that, you know, had survived, that their victims had survived. All right. The people that were killed, obviously, I already said that. There's nothing more I can add on that. I guess the only thing I will add about that is the whole being shot and stabbed thing. Let's circle back to that for a moment. Usually it's one or the other, but in this case, it's both. Someone explain that one to me. And also, remember, he wore was it a burlap sack, or like he wore some kind of weird bag over his head and it had the symbol? What was up with that? All right. Locations, again, we already went over that. So the letters. Oh, the letters. Why is it that maybe he was just one of those people that was just like, like some killers, they want to like boast and stick it in your face. That's pretty much every killer. That what they're doing is justified, or like they know that or they think they're gonna get away with it. but they always add a little something something. In this case, the Zodiac's little something something was his letters and ciphers. But I feel like the public and police dropped the ball because they gave into it. You know what I mean? Like, they could have just read the letters and they could have just tossed them in the trash. But that's evidence. I get it, but like to put it out there publicly, like you're just giving him what he wants. And that's a satisfaction. And he would post in the letters like, "Oh, you don't know when I'll strike again." Kind of like Jack the Ripper. Remember, good old Jack the Ripper? We did a video on him, and it was kind of the same thing. Of course, he would refer to somebody as boss, like, "Hey, boss, like I'm murdering people." The Zodiac, I don't. I think he wrote one personal letter to, I believe, Paul Avery, but after that, it was mostly to the public or whoever, saying like, you know, "I'm going to be here at such and such a time. You won't stop me." And also, Son of Sam did it too. So, like, again, what's up with letters provoking and challenging and boasting? Like, what is this doing? Like, what gratification does the Zodiac get out of this, or any killer get out of writing a letter to the press and police? Several authors have speculated that four people who died around the time of the Zodiac were in fact killed by him, but nothing proved that. This one I believe, because remember, I definitely think more than five people were killed by the Zodiac. And again, just go back and look at how they died. If they were shot or stabbed, obviously you could connect it to anybody, but like, like obviously all the Zodiac people who died, all the victims, like there's similar traits as to what happened to them, like the crime scene. So if you went back to those, the ones that are supposedly tied to it, surely you could connect them, right? Like it doesn't. Not every single unsolved mystery has to be an unsolved mystery. Just ask the late Robert Stack. All right. So again, we've gone over the basic parts of this. So in conclusion, I guess the last part is what is up with people's fascination with the Zodiac killer today? What is what is all of this anyway, really? I mean, who was the Zodiac killer? Why did he kill people? Why did he feel the need to write letters and ciphers? Why does Ted Cruz look suspiciously like the Zodiac killer sketch? And what was up with the bag with the symbol on his head? And what is up with people's fascination with the Zodiac killer even today? Aside from the fact that Ted Cruz looks like him. Like, I don't know. I really don't know. It's part of the reason I did the video because I think the Zodiac killer is probably one of the biggest unsolved mysteries, in this case, Mystery Unsolved, that there is. And, it's just, it doesn't go without saying because there's just so much stuff that I've just given you that we just don't know. We don't know anything about it. And that's rather unfortunate because surely over the course of 50 years, we would have some kind of more solid evidence as to who the Zodiac killer was. And it was it was obviously Arthur Lee Allen. But again, public record will state, as of this day, they don't know who the Zodiac killer is, and all those people's murders are unsolved. Well, the Zodiac killed them, but they don't know who specifically. You get my point. This has been my video on the Zodiac killer as part of Mystery Unsolved. Nobody watched this, so much for doing it on Saturday. For those that watch this in the playback, I hope you will enjoy it. To my one friend who does watch this on the playback, hey, shout out to you. You know who you are. Um, so again, this has been Mystery Unsolved Zodiac Killer Special Edition. And this, I will say, will conclude season 2 of the Zodiac, excuse me, of Mystery Unsolved. I know if for those who watch these videos on YouTube, you're probably thinking he only has 8 videos on here. What is he talking about seasons? I originally did these on Instagram, and I don't know how to transfer Instagram videos to YouTube, so there's a lot more on Instagram, unfortunately. But season 3 is going to be great, and next week you'll definitely want to tune in because next week's video, the season 3 uh, premiere of Mystery Unsolved will be Skinwalker Ranch. So that should be a good one. And right around the time of the Mystery of Skinwalker Ranch show that's returning. But yeah, this has been Mystery Unsolved. I am, of course, your host, Justin Bienvenue, and until next time,